Welcome to Destination Marriage, a podcast about successfully navigating the winding roads of marriage. Whether you're wanting to get married, newlyweds, or have been married for years, we want to share with you how we have navigated those winding roads over the past 20 years in our marriage.
Join us on this journey as we talk about real-life experiences in marriage and what we have learned along the way. We discuss love, travel, kids, friendships, and much more, all from the perspective of our lives together.
Happiness, love, grace, passion are things we all strive for in marriage, and we invite you to take this journey with us.
Welcome to Destination Marriage.
Welcome to episode 51 of Destination Marriage. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Tommy.
And we are thrilled to have you join us on this journey today.
Indeed, we are.
Yes, we are.
So, hi, baby.
Hello.
It's been a couple weeks.
It has.
We're back from vacation.
We are.
It was amazing. We had a great time with the boys.
It was an amazing time, and it took us a couple of days to, it's almost like we needed to catch up on our sleep with the time difference, but
Indeed. So
it was
anyhow.
Great.
So today's episode is actually kind of a follow-up to our episode we did before vacation, which was about family traditions, especially around the holidays, and kind of who wins, like in a marriage, like who wins. So if certain traditions or culture battles, food battles, shouldn't be battles, but nonetheless. So we actually had one of our listeners write in, and she had listened to that episode and had a question that was a little bit different, but it was still kind of a power struggle in their marriage. Yeah. And why don't you read us the note she sent us, and then we can have a little back and forth about our thoughts on it.
Yeah. So the listener writes, "Dear Destination Marriage, my husband and I have been married for 6 years, but we're experiencing a shift in our relationship that is stripping us of the happiness we once had, and it's causing a lot of arguments in our home. My husband and I both started out building our careers at the same time and came to the marriage with close to a 50-50 equal financial contribution. Within the last 6 months, my husband has made leaps and bounds with his company and is making great money. While the increase in our financial pool is wonderful, his control over our finances and disregard for my thoughts on how money should be distributed is creating a great divide. I feel as though I have no voice, and at this point, every conversation ends up becoming an argument. Do you have any thoughts on where we go from here?"
And by chance, we do have some thoughts.
We do.
So I'll kick it off, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a few things in there that stand out to me. You know, we can only a lot of this is speculation just based on what we hear, and then we'll go down our own kind of thought patterns around what our thoughts are on it. One, she did say, which I think is good. Like she said, the financial pool. So we assume then, right, that they share their monies. They're not separate, like right? One would think. They started off roughly the same. And so there might be a comfort level there.
Yeah.
That they start off with, and sort of a balance. They felt there was a balance. And now it feels there's an imbalance. She used the word control and disregard. So those are strong words, right? So there's a lot to think about. So we said, okay, well, what are possible like roots to this behavior?
Okay.
Right. And so first one I wrote down when we were talking about this was he might have just be getting a big head.
He should probably seek medical attention for that.
If his head is, because that means he's on steroids like Barry Bonds. Like there's only one way the human head actually gets bigger, and that's through steroids. So
I'm just teasing.
So figuratively.
Yes.
He got a big head.
Okay.
Or he's getting a big head.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe it's kind of manifesting itself like, well, hey, you know what? I'm making more now. I'm going to take over. Right.
Which if that's the case, obviously it's
a problem.
That's his problem. And I mean, where do you go from there? If that's really the root of the issue, how does she address that to help him recognize?
Right.
That's the problem, because it sounds like he basically he's in his own big head at this point. And obviously if he's not recognizing that that's the true issue, that he has some type of arrogance that's out of control, by approaching it with him, he may get really defensive. And it sounds like right now every conversation is turning into an argument. So what's the best way for her to actually address it?
Well, if they have a solid kind of base in their marriage, I think that if she came to him, you know, in love and tried to show some examples of how he's doing that and how it's hurt her and how it's hurt their marriage, hopefully he'll recognize that. Mm-hmm. I think if she comes right back at him, that's a losing. If he's blind to his arrogance right now, clearly they're fighting about it if that's the case. So I don't know that whatever approach she's taking isn't working. So maybe changing it up and calmly, maybe even writing a letter so that it's not a face-to-face argument that tends to happen, but showing like how he's changed, how it's impacted her, and the marriage and her feelings, and then hopefully he's, it's on him at that point. So, one of the other things that we talked about, and since it's really kind of relevant to a lot of people in the country is, was there either in the past or in the very near recent, because of maybe the COVID epidemic or pandemic, was there a major financial hole recently that they've dug out of now? And so he feels like this need to control everything.
I mean, that's possible. Yeah. I mean, I could imagine like just the fear and the emotional impact that would have during 2020 if they were impacted negatively financially and now they're crawling out of it. Yeah, maybe this is fear driven.
Right. I mean, fear and any kind of like that may be an underlying issue, right? Like, or a possible rationale. We don't know, but it could be fear of past, deficits they've been in. And he's so controlling because now he finally feels like he has the opportunity to get ahead. And so he's running with it and not like disregard for his wife in that sense. Could be fear of losing it all.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden he's making more money than he's ever made.
And now he's scared. Like, how am I going to stay, where I am at instead of taking steps back?
Again, we're just like guessing here on like possible root causes. We're not saying this is like, okay. We're just saying, hey, this could happen. Right. I mean, it's fear. Money and fear are, can be tied together hand in hand as far as emotions with it. Right. I think one of the things that I thought of is maybe he's got a lot more stress on his job. If he's doing well, let's assume he's been promoted or he's got more responsibilities and all of a sudden there's a lot more stress that's being put on him. Yeah. And he's taking it out on her in that way. Maybe he doesn't realize the extent that he's taking it out on her. I don't know. Could be a case.
I mean, that could be, okay. Well, yes, that could be a possibility. But even if he's stressed out and he's having nightmares and he's fearful, all of these things, let's say, and he has the big head. Okay. None of these things are excuses. There may be reasons as to why, but then
I know. Yeah. I'm just saying
there's going to come a breaking point for her. He needs to obviously talk to someone probably outside. If he feels like he maybe can't communicate this with her, maybe he feels like he can't say, I'm scared, like I'm scared of losing everything, or I can't handle the stress level of my job.
What I'm thinking there is he doesn't realize that it's impacting him that way. He's just go maybe. And doesn't realize, quote, innocently that is that stressed or is that fearful. And it's easier to get, he snaps quicker when they're on a discussion. Maybe she's approaching it very calmly and just say, hey,
Well, then maybe the biggest problem here is the fact that he's not paying attention to his wife. I mean, if he's that blind, whether it's this situation or something else, if he's not even noticing the impact that he's having on the marriage, that may be the real problem, because whether it's this or something else.
Yeah, certainly. Right. That's a whole different, which we'll talk about. We have kind of some notes here. I was like, maybe there's a bigger underlying issue than just the finances.
And the head that I'm very concerned about that he could potentially.
Him and Barry Bonds, their heads are growing. So what about let's just kind of play devil's advocate, right? There's two, and in every argument or every fight, there's at least two people, right? And we're only hearing her perspective. Yeah. So what do you think from her perspective could be going on?
Maybe it's possible that since we know from her note that they started out the same place in terms of their career and finances, that maybe she's feeling a little inadequate or possibly jealous. I mean, I would hate to think that, because to me, I think of it as, oh, nice. Your husband's making more money now. Like, I mean, you're both working, but increasing your financial pool, that's fantastic. You know, but it's possible right? I mean, there's probably some couples that have that struggle there if one is doing better than the other in a certain area in
Especially
life where they maybe feel like they're failing.
If they started out the same, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a possibility. I mean, I don't understand that thought process, but I'm not going to say that it doesn't exist, okay? The reality is, yeah, there probably are some people that struggle with that, and that may be her struggle.
Right? Maybe, I guess the advice there, since we were asked by her, is maybe do some self-reflection and be honest if, maybe he feels like, I've been working my butt off for years and I finally got ahead, and now you're just trying to like drag me down. We don't know what their arguments are consisting of. She said it's about him controlling the finances. Mm-hmm. What if she started it off by that jealousy kind of rearing its ugly head, and then he felt defensive, and all of a sudden, and then it kind of morphed into what it is about controlling finances, or, and we don't know if either of them had a spending problem before. Maybe, if he's all of a sudden feeling controlling, maybe he feels like, justly so, that, spending was always an issue. Now they have the opportunity to save and get ahead, combined with maybe a big head. All of a sudden he's like, well, I'm going to take control now. Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's a little bit more far-fetched. I get it. But I think the big picture there is both parties need to do some self-reflection of why they're acting.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, though, that we didn't really mention, or maybe briefly, but when someone says they feel like they have no voice at all, to me, that kind of jumps off the page more than anything else, because that means that he's probably shutting her down, even if she's bringing her concern to him. To have no voice,
that's probably safe.
Someone
that's safe to assume. Sure.
Yeah, you're being silenced by that person, or even if you're expressing your concern, and he may be telling her, "I don't want to hear it," or he's not listening. It goes in one ear and out the other. So to feel like you have no voice, I feel like she feels like she's hit a dead end.
Could be, yeah. Like you're right. That's an important point, regardless of the topic, regardless of why she feels there's no, if it could be about kids, it could be about finances, it could be about the house, it could be about vacation, it could be anything. If she feels like she doesn't have a voice, there's something deeper there, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is a power struggle, and I feel like when there's a power struggle can really only exist, whether it's finances or whatever the situation may be, if one is not listening to the other, because you can't have a power struggle if you're really listening to one another.
Agreed.
Do you know what I mean? Then you feel like, okay, yeah, we may have a different point of view, but it's not a struggle. We're working through it.
Yeah, worse would be if you are listening and disregard that person's feelings.
Yeah.
That's worse than not listening. That means you're consciously lording yourself over your spouse. Mm-hmm. Right? I hear you, but I'm going to do what I want to do anyways.
Right.
That's harder to fix than not realizing they're not listening. Mm-hmm. Right. Hopefully that's as bad as it is, that he doesn't realize what he's doing.
Yeah. Versus
he knows exactly what he's doing. He doesn't care how it's impacting his wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's worse.
I do too. And I almost feel like at this point she's clearly, I feel like she's just kind of maybe gone through all of what she thought she could possibly do, all of her options.
Yeah.
So anyway, can financial power struggles be a sign of other underlying issues?
Certainly
what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I think this is, I think, what do they say? The number one reason for divorce in marriage is financial issues.
They say that, but I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know.
Well, I know
that's what
consistently
people say.
What we've heard, what we've read, and different stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because it does put a lot of stress. When financial stress puts tremendous stress on a marriage, right? So we know that. That's just, I think, a given. I think everybody would agree with that. Mm-hmm. So if there's a power struggle there, that's in this case, all of a sudden he's making more money. We've kind of hit on some of this stuff, like what's the underlying issue, but what about deeper, like, is he narcissistic? Is he
hiding money?
That's right. Yeah. Or like when I say narcissistic in this sense, like he feels that sense of power that he maybe, or leverage he now has. So he's just going to like abuse his wife that way.
He sounds like a delight.
We don't know. We're just making up scenarios on this guy. We don't even know.
He's like,
he's a giant from Jack and the Beanstalk.
He said he's lording over her. That's what I imagine.
Right. Yeah.
I'm picturing this guy now. He's like an ogre. I don't know.
Okay. Let's go there. Let's go to fairy tale land. So, okay. So what do you mean? So under a bigger issue, deeper, maybe bigger concern.
So when I think of someone hiding money, and I'm saying he's controlling it, if you're controlling to the point or to the extent of not wanting to even have a conversation, if she feels like she has no voice, then it probably means she has no voice in terms of where money is going. So maybe she may not really understand, or not even not understand, but it may not be visible to her as to where the money is going. He could be gambling money away. He could be putting it in hidden accounts.
But she didn't say that. She did say he's controlling.
But she may not know. That's
but
the
he
thing.
said, right. So controlling could or could not involve not having visibility. Mm-hmm. But controlling could also be he's just demanding this is where the money's going. You know, she did say it's a pool, so let's assume she has access to their checking account or whatever.
Maybe she's only allowed to swim in the shallow end of this pool, and she sees like a checking account, and maybe there's like 5 others that she doesn't know anything about.
All could very well be the case. Who knows? But I think I see where you're going with it, right? It's like controlling, and then that would probably go hand in hand with also not giving her access to things, right? In this case. If she feels she has no voice and he's controlling everything, yeah, he could be. Do you think that would go along with like the same, like, oh, you got a big head, I've got some extra spending money. Maybe the spending problem's always been him, but he's making the more money, so he's saying, he's lording that over her. That, hey, well, I make this money, I can do whatever I want with it. It's my money. Yeah. And I'm gonna go gamble it away, or even worse.
Yeah, I mean, he could be spending it on trinkets. I don't even know, like tchotchkes for all I care. I'm just saying, like. It's still, if he's controlling the money, maybe he's a miser and he's literally just sitting there counting each coin. But
or every extra dollar burns a hole in his pocket.
Right. When I think of someone who's controlling, there's typically that goes hand in hand with something else that could potentially be dangerous in the relationship. So I don't know.
As in gambling, or he's spending it on just not healthy things for his marriage.
Yeah, it could be things that are dangerous things for the marriage, but he could be buying garbage. Like, I mean, there are people that just, I'm serious.
They can't say no to spending.
Yes, he could literally just be blowing it on, expensive lunches and Starbucks and not even things that are necessary.
He's got a
frappuccino
problem.
You know what? That's seriously, it can add up.
It does add up.
I'm grateful that I got rid of that out of my
no kidding.
my weekly spend. But it doesn't even have to be something as sketchy as he could be doing something, after hours. I'm just saying, like, he could also be gambling. It could be, I don't know, don't people put money into fantasy football and other things like?
I've never heard of fantasy football, like
I don't know.
Bankrupting people, but gambling, yes. Because fantasy football is kind of controlled. Like, you put in a little bit at the beginning of the year. I don't know what this ogre is
spending his money on. I have no idea.
So before we could speculate all day, right? But what about sort of some general suggestions about power struggles, whether it's finances in this case, or power struggles over the kids, or power struggles over, there's all kinds of things that could be construed as power struggles if they're not healthy dialogue, right? You're not going to agree with your partner and your spouse all the time, so
we agree all the time.
You're right. I do agree with you all the time
on all things.
And if I don't, I just pretend that I do.
Just stop.
Happy wife, happy life. So what about, as it relates to power struggles? We're not talking about like fighting fair and arguing and how to argue. Those are all important, but we're talking about like kind of power struggles, right? They're butting heads over something. Yeah. One's trying to win.
So my first suggestion would be keep open dialogue, talk to one another. I think there's a lot of dangers that can happen in the silence, and not only just things fester when that happens, but I think that our minds can really take over, and then we start having a conversation in our own head. Maybe not even based on what the other person said or the reality, just the emotion takes over. So maybe in his mind and hers, they're both having, obviously they're not communicating to one another. I think they're both probably thinking things and having this struggle, even internally, emotional struggle, instead of meeting together and really discussing both of their concerns.
I do feel like if it's turning into an argument every time, it's either there's probably one extreme, he's just gone way off the deep end in whatever way, or they're both bringing emotional issues to the conversation, and it's causing an argument.
Yeah.
Right. I think it can't be, it just seems like that has to be one of the two cases,
But let's not forget, they're both working. So if he's not only controlling his extra money, that he's controlling hers, that's really not okay.
That's what she said. She said he's controlling finances. We don't know
weird.
what detail, like, is he only controlling the extra,
If it's in a pool, right?
Then it's fair to say in this case, right? Well, let's assume that for the sake. Okay. I definitely agree with, you've got to talk. In a vacuum of discussion, people's can fill that void with whatever opinion, emotion, made up story they have in their own head. We all do that.
Yeah. And I understand people shut down. I feel like when you're overwhelmed with a situation or emotion, I understand that feeling of just shutting down, not wanting to talk. I've been there, but
we all have.
In this situation, especially when it comes to finances, after you've had your moment to cool down, it needs to be discussed. It's
too important.
It really is. And I do think in any situation, like I said earlier, silence, especially for an extended period of time, can be really dangerous.
Completely agree, babe. Another kind of note you wrote down here was, again, this kind of goes without saying for any argument, is, take time to listen before responding.
Yeah.
Seek to understand before you seek to explain. Understand and that goes back to what I said at the beginning. When you asked me, how could she approach him?
Yeah.
Maybe that, seeking to understand, he has to be open to that, but she does too. And maybe the best message is, and as a letter or some sort of non-face-to-face engagement at first. Who knows?
Do you think men respond well to a written letter?
I'm not saying that he would. I'm just saying, given that she feels like every time they talk, it turns into an argument. Maybe that's a good first step, or at least first step.
In general, though, let's say there was a, let's say you're him, you're the guy.
Yes,
okay.
The answer is if you take the time to read it, you're not in a defensive posture. If they're fighting all the time, maybe like the second something's said, they both put up a wall and all of a sudden they're looking to fight. If a letter's written that's pouring out her heart of what's bothering her, and she took the time to read it, hopefully he says, wow, she took the time to write this out. What did I say? She took the time to read it. She took the time to
write it. She took the time to write it.
Yes.
He took the time to read it.
Read it. Right. She took the time and he took the time. Like, hopefully there should be some moment of reflection there. I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Indeed. So, and keep it on topic is another thing you said, right?
Keep it on topic.
All of a sudden she's yelling about your mother and this and that and all,
I actually think that that's a real struggle, probably for most people, because
you're right. For most women, it is toughtly a struggle to keep it on top. Oh, what?
I think it could be a struggle for most people. They've been married for a very long time. Okay. So a lot of times finances can go hand in hand, or some of these power struggles can go hand in hand with other things, other situations that it just may kind of pick out a scab, that's kind of gross, but anyway, you know what I mean? Like, it just rises to the surface. So I think that's something that you have to be conscious of. Like, you have to make sure I'm not going to go.
Keep the main thing the main thing.
Is that what the saying is?
Not about arguing, but it's about like anything. It's like, keep the main thing the main thing. Focus on, it's part of one of the books we read. I can't remember. Anyways. I think it's The One Thing by
it might be the
Simon Sinek.
Okay.
Right. Keep the main thing the main thing.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
The other thing I had mentioned was act in love. And again, because we're only getting her side, we don't really know. This is kind of, I'm already saying this guy's an ogre. So I'm just thinking,
indeed,
because he's being controlling, right? She's saying he's being controlling. But either way,
and she's reaching out to us.
Right.
So hopefully she is being honest.
I don't think anyone's going to reach out that has the worst intentions. If they're seeking help, whether it were to, reach out to Destination Marriage, or they were going to their therapist or their pastor, or, someone who's a mentor, obviously they want to fix things. So that does kind of, if you're looking from that perspective, puts her in a positive light.
It's safer to say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
but again, it is one side. And I would say this, whether it was a guy coming to us or not, right? It is only one side of
an ogre.
If it was an ogre coming to us or not.
Just teasing.
So, all right. Let's say that these things don't work. Our suggestions, we're just talking kind of as a couple, maybe how we would manage it, or how we would handle it, or how we would recommend if we were having dinner with this couple, right?
Yeah.
But it may need to escalate more if there's real issues. And I think marriage counseling could be something that is very, very maybe necessary here. If they're really just having that much of a conflict, seek some objective help. Someone who has both of their best interests at heart, right? Because that's our goal. When we answer these types of questions, is not to take one side or the other. Our goal here is to bring them together.
Right.
And so counseling the goal is to bring them together. Right. So
yeah, 100%. And maybe if finances continue, maybe if that's just a real challenge for them, maybe they should also have like a financial advisor, someone who's going to work through their finances with them.
Right.
That is strictly
who's also objective.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they can, work with a counselor on how to communicate with one another, but then also work with somebody through the finances if they need someone to, and also if he's fearful and he has legitimate reasons as to why he's scared and wanting to control and has nothing to do with wanting to hurt her, maybe that person can shed some light and give him some peace of mind by adding some structure to it. And her some
peace of mind.
Yes.
Right? That, hey, this isn't about you. It's about this other stuff.
Exactly.
But that could be in counseling. But yeah, financially, it could be like, here's an actual financial instrument to make that secure for you guys.
Right. And so that way, everything's kind of out on the table and no one feels like they're left in the dark.
And, we're big advocates for shared accounts. I mean, we have full visibility. You have your business account, but we have full visibility into all of our accounts. We're all on each other's accounts. We believe in a single checking account and so on, right? But this, if this is actually something that's bad, that has a risk of like really damaging them, the household financially, like maybe she needs to be mindful of that and set up her own accounts.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if it got to the point where even if she made all the suggestions that we had just recommended, and she suggested those to him and he's literally not wanting to do anything or budge or meet her in the middle or even...
Yeah, then if you're right, that's bad.
Right, because you can't change someone. I don't really think you or anyone can change the other person. If he's not willing to meet her...
Yeah, I agree.
Then, yeah, maybe that would be the last resort.
At some point, unfortunately, she may have to just protect herself against financial ruin as part of this. Hopefully that's not the case, but unfortunately it happens, right? I mean, it can, definitely can be a sad reality, but I'm hoping that at this point, either he'll have like a moment of reflection and kind of recognize and see what he's doing to her. Cause I would imagine, this is probably something that's emotionally draining on her. Or at least be open to talking to a third party. I really think self-reflection for both of them, I think, is important.
Yeah.
I think she does need to, before she approaches him again, I think it'd be wise of her to say, okay, let me look back on how I've reacted. Have I set him off in certain ways for some reason?
Yeah. Even
if him going off on whatever, being controlling is wrong, maybe she doesn't realize the impact that she's having on him negatively. We have, I think it's fair to say that like, we have the ability and the capability as husband and wife, or any husband and wife. We know each other's hot buttons. We know each other. We could hurt each other if we choose to, much easier than we could hurt anybody else emotionally, right? Obviously, we don't want to go down that path. My point is, we also accidentally hurt each other very quickly sometimes, not realizing it, because there's such an intimacy with your spouse. So being mindful and self-reflection of what I'm doing, what I'm saying, how that's impacting my spouse, when you don't even think it should, or you don't realize that it does, self-reflection is important there. Before going and starting another argument or starting another conversation that leads to an argument.
Yeah.
And I think that goes both ways, right? So.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the listener writing in.
Yes,
Obviously,
thank you so much. We really do appreciate it.
We don't share the name. It's confidential, but, absolutely. If you have not even a similar, any other situation or whatever silly question, feel free to write in. We'd love to hear from you guys. Obviously we're going to have something fresh and new for you next week, but
Jackie's going to go find her ogre husband and blow
he climbed back up the beanstalk. He's gone. He's out of here.
I don't think ogres climb beanstalks. I think it's giants, but
giant, whatever. You know what I meant.
Get your fairy tale straight, Kuiper.
Yeah, it's
anyhow.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.
Bye guys.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if so, please continue to listen and subscribe on Podbean, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. We would greatly appreciate positive reviews, and we will answer any questions at feedback@destinationmarriagepodcast.com. For up-to-date content and news about the podcast, you can follow us on Instagram at destination_marriage and visit our website at destinationmarriagepodcast.com. Be sure to tune in next week.